Welcome to the Dogger Pass podcast. I'm your host, Dan Tom, at Dan Tom MMA, whose analysis you can find at places like MMA Junkie or Home of Fight. But on this here podcast, the Dogger Pass podcast, we break down high-level MMA. That's what we're going to do here tonight. Whenever you're listening to this, hopefully it is before the fight, because we're going to be breaking down UFC Fight Night 257, UFC Shanghai, UFC Fight Night Walker versus Zhang, and of course, I need to bring, we got Zhang, so I got to bring in a co-host with a bang, and he's been banging it. So, man, are we proud to have him here as ever, as he's just continued to kill it. Let's bring in Mike at Madlab MMA, where you can find him at themadlabmma.com. We might have just hit him with a fire extinguisher because he's been on fire lately. But what's up, Mike? How you doing, brother?
What's up, dude? No, yeah, it was what a card, bro. The two back fists in a row. That was the first time in UFC history, right? Wasn't that first time in history?
It has to have been, right? That's like, to be two on a card, much less like back to back like that. It's pretty insane.
Yeah, it was a good card. It was good minus the main event. But you know what? I wanted to talk to you about this, and we talk off air a lot, but I didn't talk to you off air because I wanted to get your like first gut reaction to this. I agree that it wasn't a fan-friendly main event. I agree. Okay, it wasn't a fan-friendly main event, but this is MMA. You look to win the fight. I have no issues with the way Khamzat won that fight. Zero. Thoughts?
I don't have any issues with it either, man. And like
a lot of people complained about it.
Yeah, and we picked DDP, and we were wrong on that. That was a main event we were wrong on, folks. But like, yeah, I wasn't complaining about it at all. I was surprised. I was certainly surprised by the cardio, even though DDP obviously wasn't able to make him work. Granted, the fact that he was still able to wrestle for 5 rounds, that's impressive, even at that level of output. I don't know if I'm alone there, Mike.
Yeah, no, it was phenomenal what he did. It was honestly, that was the one read on the card where I was like, listen, I wouldn't be shocked if he wins, but it's not going to be a rollover, and it was a rollover of epic proportion. So my read was wrong. Like I'm very transparent. My read was wrong, but where my read wasn't wrong, brothers and sisters, was I don't pat myself up on the back often, but that Alexander Hernandez call was fucking tits.
That was great, man. Massive prop. Even Pat, shout out Pat Mayo. He was even giving you props on that one. I guess you might have helped his night. You helped a lot of people's night, that's for sure. But even the big guys' night, the boss's night, he gave you some shots on that one too, man.
Yeah, man, that was great for us for DraftKings too, because there was a lot of spots where he was like 9% owned. He was very, very low owned, and our guys just climbed all over it. So there's certain spots where I tell my guys like, this is a spot, you know what I mean, and they go, but they know by reading my voice and how I talk, and if I'm on them, if I'm really not on, if I just want to take a little plug on them. But it was Elliott and him, bro. It was him and Elliott that I was like, for DraftKings, these are the two guys. And if you had Elliott and Alexander Hernandez in your lineups, you cashed big. If you had the right correlation after that. But we had a great night again. In the bonus again for another week. We had great DraftKings night. Main event dropped the ball, but is what it is. It doesn't matter. We're here to make money. We're not here to just get picks correctly. You know what I mean? So good stuff. I mean, I'm happy. This card, I think I'm not going to speak for DT, but for me, we're very transparent on this show. We're going to give you great analysis. We're going to give you our thoughts. But the one thing we also will tell you, which a lot of people don't, is you don't need to bet every card. You don't need to throw a lot of money on every card, or you don't need to play DraftKings on every card. This is a card where if you're going to take a break, or you're going to just go with your family, or you're just going to sleep in and you don't feel like watching the card, you don't need to bet this card. This is not a card you need to invest in. Are we going to invest in it? I am. I'm sure he will a little bit as well. But the fact of the matter is I don't want to see you guys burying bankroll in a card like this. Have fun with it. Sprinkle a little something on it, or don't sprinkle nothing at all. This is a week. If you wanted to take off, you absolutely could.
Yeah, bury it in the pay-per-views like I do, because I got buried, man. I'm on life support, so this is a perfect week for me. And I'm glad you said that, because a lot of people, and I'm not saying this to make myself feel better, because I'll definitely be trousing myself. And you guys, by the way, like there were people giving you crap in the comments for that Hernandez pick, Mike. You
Of
could tell
course.
again you win with class because, dude, you could have and should have victory
I should have
lapped
just
even harder than you did, bro.
Well, if you notice,
And you earned it. You earned it with
if you
that kind of a
notice,
pick.
if you notice, like it's like the same 4 or 5 guys. As soon as the video is posted, if the video is posted in like at 1:00 p.m. at 1:05, there's like 5 guys that comment something, which means they didn't even watch the show. They just come on there to comment. So keep on commenting, keep on coming in, keep on commenting. You're just helping us our algorithm. So whether it's good, whether it's bad, comment. Tell me to go fuck myself. I really could care less. I'll just keep winning, and you keep watching.
Yeah, and and you know, I saw one comment, and it seemed pretty playful. Like it could have been read as playful. Don't get me wrong, and you know, we're not the freaking word police. You know, you guys are just helping our engagement. But I saw someone, you know, giving you crap on the Hernandez pick, and and as a guy who was on Hooper and was way wrong about that, I hated seeing that comment, Mike, because I'm like, dude, don't throw that juju out there, man. Like,
well, he's actually a good guy. That guy's actually
he seemed like a good guy, but I was like,
a good guy.
But
the
as
one
a
who said,
Hooper,
"God help us," right?
Yes. But as a Hooper better,
guy.
I was like, don't throw that juju out there. That's gonna jinx us, right? Like I wouldn't worry about the offense or whatever. You didn't seem to take any, but like, yeah, I was like, oh no, that's gonna jinx us. And what I wrote was with the DDP and Hooper fights. So my main takeaway is I got washed, I suck, and you guys have always had every right to trounce me. So that I won't.
No, they don't. Don't say that bullshit.
It's just get it right. You know, my thing is like just get it right. Don't, you know, we'll get to it. Like at least just get the facts right. You know, like people.
DP's nicer than you're nicer than me. That's the problem. You're too nice, dude.
Yeah, apparently.
I'm not nice. You're too fucking nice.
I don't know. Not according to some. I'll let people fucking have it if they come at me. I'll give them the same energy they get. But I'm generally, anybody that interacts with me in good faith, knows I'm a fairly nice guy. I don't want to say too nice, but fairly nice. My 2 notes were stick to your reads and live bets. So stick to your reads. I always thought DDP was shit, and I couldn't, that was the whole, and that became almost the meme and the gimmick about him, right? You know, even people who didn't think it acknowledged that point of view. And we almost get lost in the meme, right? You know, and middleweight is the division, shout out to my guy Zane Simon. Middleweight is the division of misfit toys, as he says. It's a division where a guy with neoprene knees at 50 years old named Dan Kelly can reel off like an 8-fight win streak. Remember that? Until he ran into Derek Brunson. And Derek Brunson, who people were like, oh, he's a combustible maniac. Like, yeah, that combustible maniac style took Derek Brunson on a crazy streak. Remember? And I know you remember that as well. When he was pulling plus odds, making Robert Whittaker a dog to him, right? In Robert Whittaker's prime run, right? So like middleweight is the division where you can, even Robert Whittaker, as good as he was, and he is the upper echelon of these examples, as much as I love big Robert Whittaker fan, I'm also a big fan of what? Body work. And that's something that Robert Whittaker never does. He's a headhunter, and that is one of his biggest criticisms. I'm the biggest bodywork lover, yet I'm a Robert Whittaker fan. And Robert Whittaker was able to get away with that flaw in his game, that kind of one dimension and, tunnel vision that he has to his game, even though he does have the skills other places. Middleweight is that place. And I should have stuck to my reads, right? Should have stuck to my reads. And if I did, minus 200 actually looks like a decent price for Khamzat, not a plus 200 price for DDP, right? If I would have stuck to my reads. Whereas Hooper, he was the guy who I couldn't get right. I'm like, oh yeah, this guy is like the undercooked dude. We had those uncomfortable performances when he first came on that even Rogan was like, what is this kid doing here, Dana? And that was the read. And then he starts overperforming, and not only overperforming and showing me wrong in my bets. And I'm saying this, folks, because I know that even if you're not with me on these reads, everybody has had this before. We've all been here before with a fighter, right? Where we're just like, okay, fine. He starts winning you over after you lose to him. And then sure enough, we find out that fighter was who we thought they were all along. Does that make sense, Mike?
Yeah, sure. Of course.
Yeah. So that was kind of it, right? Where I'm so used to fading out Alex Hernandez, which I still will get in certain matchups. I still feel like he falls apart when pressure. Round 2 is still that hot round. We didn't quite get there, right? This time. And it wasn't looking good for Hooper anyways. I'm not saying he would have won, but I'm just saying is I got 2 tunnel vision on fading one guy when I forgot about my reads on the other. So stick to your reads, and then as well as live bets, because as we've talked about, and that's what's made it hard too. I'm like, how am I hitting more round robins? Like as bad as I'm doing, I've never hit this many round robins, folks. The one thing we did hit this weekend was a round robin, because even when I even though, when I get my reads, kind of mixed up, at least, or not my reads mixed up, but like when I'm picking the Hung Sung Parks at plus 300 of the world, when I'm picking the GM3s at over 2-1, or the DDPs at 2-1, in my defense, I'm like, what do I say before all this? I'm like, don't follow me off this cliff. I don't expect you to follow me off this cliff. The right guy is favored, but I'm taking a dog shot on
Right.
this
Sure.
reason.
Yeah.
One.
Yeah.
And secondly, I also hedge my dog shots out where Miles Johns, I took as a dog. He didn't get there, but A, I didn't look crazy analysis wise. And B, what was my hedge? Was the split decision, which paid off another round robin on a previous week, right? Or in this case, the round robin that paid off, I had Oleg Zajic round 1 KO because, again, even though I'm an auto bet GM3 guy, I'm not unrealistic about what GM3, where he can lose the fight. It's in the first round, right? By knockout. That just seems kind of obvious. So round 1 GM3, and then we put, Pico and Lerone Murphy ends by KO because I love that bet. Even though we were wrong with our pick by picking Pico, and I did show my work as to why I picked Pico. I saw people being really bullish on Aaron Pico, and to me, Mike, it was like, if you're bullish on Aaron, we picked Aaron Pico, don't get me wrong, but if you're bullish as far as betting him goes, you're basically doing that just so you can show your dick at the end of the night, because there was no really other reason to lay that type of price straight on him. And for, people speaking to the people in the comment sections, like giving people crap, give me crap all you want. But what upset me is people giving our guest crap on a week where, like, Eric gives us his freaking time and gives us analysis that was spot on. By the way, he called one of those spinning elbows, right? He actually called that finish, the Lerone Murphy one, on our show, folks. And, people, shitting on him and stuff after that dude's already had a tough week. I got to come on here after losses no matter what. So do these coaches and fighters. They got to show up regardless of the night. And Eric didn't even want to do his own podcast. And he comes onto the Dog or Pass podcast just because he's that good of a fucking friend to me. So shame on those of you who are being negative, and props to those of you who were actually shared the show out last week. Like I asked, we didn't get the reach that I wanted to. Some of the ball drops were on our side that I'll take credit for, for sure. But thank you for those of you that actually did decide to share the show, because we've been trying our ass off. And even though my hard work has been amounting to jack shit, both in and out of this space, we're still giving you good analysis. And as far as the bets go, dude, our co-host over here, Mike, he's been just killing it, man. Like, seriously, there are people that do good in this space, and I try to shout them, but Mike is right up there with anybody you could put up there right now, and he's an OG who's been around. So just give credit where credit's due, folks. And we are doing our best for you here, and I think we've been doing pretty dang good despite my crap results.
Let's keep it rolling. Let's do that.
All right. Yeah, let's keep it rolling. Sorry. All right, let's get to this fight night. UFC Shanghai, UFC Fight Night, Walker versus Zhang. At UFC Fight Night 257, of course, we've got Mingyang Zhang as a favorite. Perhaps a bigger favorite would have been more, some people were expecting, including myself, at least from the public push, but not too far from the opener. Minus 400 for Zhang Mingyang, plus 300 for Johnny Walker, over 1.5 rounds, plus 235, under 1.5, minus 295. Yeah, man. This is, we just mentioned my guy Eric Nixick, and he desperately wants to get back on the win track, and he's I think he might be in the corner of one favorite we'll talk about, but he's in the corner of two dogs this week. And the first of them, they're both former SBG fighters. The first of them is Johnny Walker, former SBG fighter. We haven't seen him in a year. Since then, he spent time training at Extreme Couture. Now, before that, again, he was SBG Ireland with John Kavanagh. And I try to be polite and not pile on, with everybody who piles on there. But when you have guys like, and again, we'll talk about, I just alluded to Kiefer Crosbie himself, longtime SPG people kind of talking crap and saying the things that many of the critics online assumed about the gym, then yeah, maybe there's something there. And is that an end all be all? No. Does the fact that he's training at Extreme Couture, which is one of the premier places, not just MMA gyms, and I'm not just saying that because I'm biased or they're in my backyard, that's my home gym, but no, because it's one of the best places as far as big guys, to finish my sentence, as far as big guys in the room. And as you know, Mike, finding guys your size is not easy, much less guys who can actually move, much less guys who can actually move and fight or do that for a living. And Extreme Couture has rounded up a lot of them. So these are good pluses for the Johnny Walker side. I don't speak too much out of school. I interviewed him for the Home of Fight. That's up. You can listen to that and what Johnny Walker had to say about his past trainings with Mingyang Zhang, because Mingyang Zhang also trained there a bit. Trained a lot with a fighter named Carl Williams, who, again, I don't speak out of school, Mike. But what I will tell you guys is Carl Williams is also one of Johnny Walker's main training partners for this fight. And you can probably guess why. He's a wrestling heavily fighter. And I'm not giving anything away in the game plan because Zhang Mingyang is also a fighter who, employs takedowns. So he's definitely going to get the takedown defense look. But one has to imagine, Mike, they did see something in camp, and that's why they're having, the former training partners of Zhang Mingyang working with Johnny. And again, I'm actually, leaning toward the favorite here because again, I don't just pick Extreme Couture fighters every time. I picked the opposite of Roman Dolidze, right? Before we even had Eric Nixick right on the show. You think, that would have been awkward. I would have, if any time there's do a bias pick, it's then. It's like, no, again, folks, not saying I'm right, not saying you gotta like me, because neither of those things are true. But I do have reasons for what I do, and I do try to stay professional for what it's worth. And yeah, I will be looking at as I pass the baton on to Mike. I just wanted to lay out that ground layings. I will say that I'm interested in looking at what the over-under for the total takedowns are going to be set for Walker in this fight, regardless of what side you fall on. I'm really curious about that number. Mike, what do you got for this matchup, though, man?
Yeah, this is, I think this fight is going to be a theme of the card. There's going to be a couple fights that I'll be able to get into a little bit deeper, but the way I found myself with this card, sometimes you just don't make it difficult for yourself. Like there's certain cards like 319 and other cards where you really deep dive and you pigeonhole and you do all these things and you'll get all these people giving you all this crazy analysis. And it's like, sometimes it just doesn't have to be that fucking hard. Now, something that goes back to what you said about SBG and said you don't want to really, I'll say it because I was one of the people who led the charge with I don't think SBG is a good camp. Never did. Always thought they laid their hat on Conor McGregor. They've had nobody else since. Nobody of note. So I think the best thing that Johnny Walker did was get the hell out of there and go over to Nixick. Like that's bonus number one. So we could get that out of the way. I just don't think they were worth anything. I really don't. Like, it's not that I don't like him. Like, I'm sure personal. I'm sure he's a very knowledgeable guy and stuff like that. But as far as the camp itself, I would never in a million years send a fighter that was a personal friend of mine over there to train ever. But as far as this fight, the way I break it down, it's like, yes, going from there to, to Nixick and drawing up a game plan and having former training partners, that's all awesome because his offensive output and his offensive dynamics are well capable of winning this fight. Johnny Walker is explosive. He's fast. He's got a kind of unchained way about him where he'll catch you with things you don't see coming. Those are the things that knock you out. The punches and kicks that knock you out are the ones that you don't see coming. And he's very capable of doing that. However, to make it easy, there's the one crucial thing that I just can't sit myself down and say I'm picking him in a 5-round fight with his durability. He just doesn't have a chin that I can really have any semblance of confidence in. When you get a guy who's fresher, who seems like, yeah, maybe he's not this like we're touting to be this great thing, but at the end of the day, he does have power. He does have a decently well-rounded skill set. He is the fresher fighter. And if you're telling me in 25 minutes that he's not going to find that spot, I would find it hard to believe. So this could even be a spot where Johnny Walker looks good until he doesn't anymore. Because I do think that he's got the capabilities offensively to win the fight. I just don't trust his chin. Therefore, I'm going with Mingyang.
Yeah, man. I love your quote that's been stuck in my head since you said it. No chin, no win. And I can't remember the fighter that you even said it about off the top of your head, but you were right in that fight too, by the way. And that's what hurts me here is I was hoping Johnny Walker was going up to heavyweight. Obviously, great move going to Extreme Couture, right? We both agree on that. But I think the second better move would have been to go to heavyweight. Not that would have even solved it too, right, Mike? But Johnny Walker says so himself. I mean, he was kind of not complaining. I mean, he was just being real with me in the interview with it. He's like, dude, I still have 20 kilos to cut. Where's it supposed to come from? Showing me his cut, ripped body. I'm like, all right, I get it, buddy. I'm like, oh. But yeah, like he has to cut a lot of weight, and you got to wonder what that does to your brain and depletion there. That's when cutting weight, not just brain injuries, but a lot of injuries, as you know, Mike. the water not just affects the levels in your brain, but your joints, right? So I know I got most of my bad injuries was when I was cutting weight for competitions, or fights themselves, getting sick and stuff like that was normal, even for my ass. I can't imagine for professional athlete really killing themselves for some of these cuts here. So yeah, man, I actually lean toward Zhang Mingyang for the pick here, but again, I am going to be looking at those numbers for the total takedowns, and I will say, Zhang Mingyang, he's been training at Bangtao Muay Thai. More fighters are training there. So again, I feel like how many fights have we gotten, Mike, where it's like my two home gyms there, so to speak, Bangtao versus Extreme Couture. I feel like we've been seeing this a lot lately. Maybe because both those gyms are like being popular for their sides of the world, but am I wrong, Mike? Have we gotten a lot of those Bangtao Extreme Couture fights here recently?
Yeah, a lot of them. I do want to bring something up because we're on the chinny subject right now.
Yeah.
This is going to be about a minute or two, but I want to let you guys digest something. I'm an exercise science background, so I do a lot of research on physiology and stuff like that. That's kind of how I made my mark in this industry with speed and conditioning and just knowing the physiology of the body and the game and the weight cutting. So I want you to guys picture when we say the word chinny, right? When you say chinny, when you say that topic and God gets knocked out, why does he keep getting knocked out all the time? Why is it a repetitive thing? So this is the best way you guys can resonate with this and kind of keep it in your brain to understand that, like, once you start getting knocked out, it's very hard to rewire yourself. You got these things in your brain called axons, right? That's pretty much your wiring system. So now picture in the wire when you have the blue, red, and white wires. If you take a butter knife and you fray away that rubber, okay, inside are the actual wires. That's the wrapping around. That's the safety. That's the plasma, the safety protection around those wires. After it's hit and after you keep fraying it, picture the fraying being punches. After it's fraying, and those wires become exposed, if you take a little bit of water and you drop it on it, those wires start shorting out. It's the same thing with the axons in your brain. The more they're traumatized, the more they're hit, the more the protection starts leaving them, it's easier to short circuit. So that's the way I want you guys to visualize chinny. It has nothing to do with your chin or anything like that. But once those axons become damaged, they just don't repair themselves. So that's just a little education for you. DT, I can't hear you.
Sorry, I was muted. That's great, Mike. That's apropos to what we were talking about. I just hope, I hope people, it's funny. I weighed in on something that, that I could weigh in that was relatable to the fights, and people got mad at my little rant about it. So hopefully they don't give you shit about that. Informational. I don't see why they would, but I'm just page noting that because me, I love keeping a page on people's hypocrisy and keeping the same energy. So we'll see if they do that when we get to the Diyar Nurgozhay fight. So that's what I'm basically alluding to there. But no, that was actually fantastic, and another reason why you're just an excellent resource to have on this show, sir. So I just want to look at I imagine that even the inside the distance, Zhang Mingyang's got to be chalked, right? Like it's got to be close to minus 200.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, minus 400. I mean, it's basically his money line, which makes sense. So you're kind of priced out again. That was something I was alluding to too, where it's like, how am I hitting these things and not hitting as much like with the round robins? To finish that thought from earlier, as we finish the thoughts on this breakdown, which is, as it's apropos, which is the bookmakers. It's not just our imagination, folks. I was talking to my guy Johnny, the Greek gambler, there on the UFC broadcast, and he actually is in touch with a lot of the bookmakers out here in Vegas, and apparently they've been. And I told you guys this on the show before. It's on purpose, folks. What you're noticing is on purpose. They're raising the castle walls. They're making it harder to climb from your women's and even heavyweight overs, your chalk, your inside the distance chalk, the round, and even the hot round players like me. That's the reason why I went to rounds in the first place, not just because it's a way to both nerdily flex as well as be a degenerate to potentially make a lot of money on your information about the sport, trying to find hot rounds, but it was a way to get around some of the odds makers, on things too, as far as some of the baselines that they would set, right? You could get creative if you knew what you were doing, and now they've even nerfed those. So it's you really got to be, you really got to know your spots and be much more sharper on your spots, let's just say that. All right, let's move on to the next fight. Co-main event, a really good co-main event that I'm surprised they threw all the way over here in China. Of course, it's Brian Ortega versus Aljamain Sterling. Sterling is your favorite, minus 275. Comeback on T-City. plus 225. Totals set for 2.5 rounds, even though it's a 5-rounder. Pause on that. Minus 300 for the over 2.5. Under 2.5 plus 240. Those totals make sense. And I didn't even hate the line, even though it's inflated a bit from its opener, which I also understand. However, I, like many, if I'm being honest, and if we're being honest, I don't know, Mike, maybe you actually read the board. Although I will say I did refresh it like on Monday, and it went from 3 to 5. But yeah, apparently this is a 5-rounder, and a lot of us were under the impression it was a 3. It was originally listed as a 3. I will be curious to what the fighters say in their interviews this week, as far as it being a 5-rounder. I assume they knew. Aljamain Sterling does look in a good shape for what it's worth. But yeah, what do you got on this fight? And were you aware, when were you aware that this was even a 5-rounder, Mike?
Yeah, I just found out recently this was a 5-round fight. Listen, I'll tell you this. I won as much money as on Sterling than I lost with DDP. I've lost the last 5 fights with DVP picking. It was 4, and then I picked him, and he lost. So I picked against him all 4 times. He won. Then I picked him to win, and he loses. Same thing with Sterling. I've never picked against Aljamain Sterling. I bet him in every single fight. Always did. I don't care. I picked him both times against. I picked him against Cejudo. I picked him against Jan twice. I picked him against everybody. He's made me so much money in the past. Maybe it's because of where I'm from. I know so much about him, and I just know the people he trains with, and I got connections with that gym. But Aljo is still better than advertised. Like even to this day, I know he's got haters and stuff like that, but Aljo is as good, if not better, as advertised. He really does have that funk style to him. And when I look at Ortega, this fight would have been good a couple years ago. I think this fight would have been super highly competitive a couple years ago. He was super durable. This was before all the wars. But at the end of the day, like, Ortega has been in wars, and more importantly, I'm questioning his heart. Does he really want to be here anymore? Does he really want to be fighting anymore? I've been questioning him the past, like, year and a half. Like, does he really want this anymore? I'm not sure he does. Like, and I still believe like Aljo still has like an axe to grind. You know what I mean? In a sense. I think he did win over some fans. I know a lot of fans just don't like him for whatever reason. A lot of people think he's overrated. Ever since the whole Jan situation, everybody just started dumping on him. But how many people does this guy have to beat? How many times does this guy have to win the top level competition for you to give this guy like a really good dose of respect? This fight, he's getting respect, but I think that the books have it right. Like, yeah, it's Brian Ortega, but it's not the Brian Ortega we remember from 3 years ago. This is a shop-worn Brian Ortega. I think he's going to be a step behind. I think that there's a different grappling edge. I think if you take the wrestling and grappling and combined it into one, you can't even compare. I think Aljo is the better grappler. If you're talking about an opportunistic grappling exchange where you can grab a neck, then yes, it's T-City, all day. But I just don't know where he wins this fight outside of catching him with a shot, because Aljo can be called catching him with a shot, or grabbing a neck or something stupid on some kind of grappling exchange, which I just don't see Aljo making that mistake. So I think this is Aljo all day. I actually think he could finish this fight later on in the fight. That's a
good. I don't really disagree with any of that. Yeah, from when people started disliking Aljo, to does he have more in the tank? I don't know how much more in the tank he has, Mike. I will say that, but what I do like is that in interviews he's being very honest about it, which I appreciate. Again, I know honesty, for better or worse, as I find out, mainly for worse, doesn't do you much favors, especially in a very macho, right, masculine sport, especially when you're in the position of the fighter themselves. Like, you gotta, you can't show any weakness, right? But I appreciate honesty, man, and I'd rather have someone being honest about where they are in their career than delusional and giving you those, or delusional giving you those fake, phony answers like best camp of my life and oh yeah, I can do this till I'm 50. He's realistic. He knows that at this stage of your career, every fight's important, and you never know which one could be your last. And I actually appreciate someone being very honest like that. Whereas Brian T-City Ortega, it's weird. You could argue he has less miles for all the time off he's had from injuries, layoffs. He had the positive test way back in the day, for those who remember that. And with Brian Ortega, man, I just feel like I feel like two things are going to catch up. I think, I do think, I did think that Aljo, his also admission to like wanting to like, to drinking during training camps and stuff was going to catch up to him. I'm glad he moved to 145. And I don't think this is the fight where that kind of catches up to him here. And again, he's been really honest about everything. Whereas T City, you never really know where he's at. He could have the whole partying thing too, but when it comes to his corner, I've been really, questionable about his corner and his management, like one of what I thought should have been a 10-7 round, which we'll never see with the way they adjudicate. But like, he was pretty much finished. Like Volkanovski finished Brian Ortega. I don't care what you guys said. Like he finished him like multiple times during that round 3. And Herb Dean does the doctor thing where that was the classic one where he was giving him the help and telling him which numbers it was. If people remember that replay. But yeah, it was terrible. It was awful. And then what was the worst of it is that nobody was protecting. The ref didn't want any responsibility. The doctor didn't want any responsibility. And worst of all, the corner didn't want responsibility, which is normal. But then you have, the corner, which was the guy with Tiki Gozin, who used to fight, going, "This is earning it, Brian. This is earning it." I'm like, dude, your guy's not even fucking conscious right now. What are you doing? What do you mean this is earning it, dude? You didn't even earn the fucking title shot, really. The fucking random win over a Korean zombie, which was the last time he looked decent. And he, was showing his occasional little southpaw switch there. And yeah, I don't know how much of his boxing range is going to be effective against a guy like Sterling, who can play outside kicking range, who's gotten better in that range himself. And again, I can wrestle. When we zoom out of Brian Ortega's career, he hasn't really faced any strong, a lot of strong wrestlers, right? Or if they were, it was like Frankie Edgar, the aging Frankie Edgar, where he stopped him right away. We didn't get to see any of that wrestling, right? And Thiago Tavares, who's known as a jiu-jitsu guy, but that's an underrated fight, folks. And Thiago Tavares, an underrated grappler, has some MMA wrestling skills himself. But like, when you zoom out from his career, there really wasn't that strong challenge, whereas Aljo has seen every matchup in the book. So I actually like Aljo here as a parlay piece. I will admit, I like him a little less as a parlay piece now, finding out that it's 5 rounds, Mike, as I'm admitting to playing that before I figured it was 5 rounds, which makes me feel like an idiot. But again, for better or worse, I'm honest with you guys. But yeah, I got Aljo in a parlay here. I don't know if I want anything more to do with it. I do think Brian Ortega is nearing his first stoppage loss. I thought Diego Lopez was going to be the first one to give it to him via strikes, but I don't know if I see that here. It could be decision, probably. So, yeah, Mike, do you disagree with any of that?
No. I think if you're gonna play this, I mean, I think it's a little rich to play the straight. So I would say,
Right.
like, yeah, if you're gonna do it, I'm pretty confident that he does win the fight, but I'm never one to lay that kind of juice. So I would tie him into a parlay for sure.
Yeah, I got him tied into a 2-legger for even money. So,
That's perfect.
and I actually like the second leg probably better if there was a gun in my head. So for whatever that's worth. So yeah, we'll move on from that fight. Let's go to the next fight. We got Sergei Pavlovich, the refrigerator with arms, versus Waldo Cortes-Acosta, my least favorite heavyweight, my least favorite fighter, probably. Salsa Boy. God, I hate this guy. I'm sorry. Minus 240 for Pavlovich, plus 195 for Salsa Boy, which sucks because he's actually got the more attractive odds here. Total set for 1.5 rounds, over minus 155, under plus 125. Sorry if you hear my dog chewing a little bit of bones in the background. Maybe I shouldn't mention the dog when we're talking about a Waldo Cortes-Acosta fight, whom I hate and whom he is the underdog. But even though he's athletic and he actually can move and can be good, and I do want to give Waldo Cortes that props and potential. He's just a really annoying style with his fucking taunting and his posturing more than fighting, especially when he actually has the advantage and could fight more. Whereas Pavlovich, again, if you want to draw him, you don't have to be an artist, folks. Just draw a refrigerator and then draw 2 muscly arms, and that's basically Sergei Pavlovich. And even though it was a lackluster performance, a performance that many at least didn't suspect to go to the decision at the very least, I actually like to see a performance like that and him win a performance like that from Pavlovich going into a fight like Cortes-Acosta, who can trick you into a long, annoying fight. Mike, what's your read on this, man? Save me here with the boxing and the heavyweight reads, my brother.
Yeah, the one thing I will tell you guys about this, and DT, I want your input on it, is when you look at this fight, don't get bait. There's a couple fights on here where I'm going to tell you guys don't get baited into the consensus. This is like where you got to kind of use your own brain a little bit. The easy pick is Pavlovich is going to starch him. That's like everyone's like, oh my god, he's going to finish him. He's got the power and stuff. Okay, I understand. 1000% can happen. Not even a question. But you got to look at the other side of it. You got to look at the matchup. And as annoying as Costa is, he's a guy that you have to find him. You know what I mean? So you can beat him, you can knock him out, but you have to find him. He's very nimble on his feet. He moves laterally. He'll stab at you. He does like DT tells you. He kind of showboats and showcases a little bit, which can frustrate somebody like Pavlovich. Pavlovich is a guy who absolutely can be frustrating there, and then he could start fighting out of character. So I'm picking Pavlovich here, but what I will tell you guys is this: don't bury your eggs in that basket, because there's a decent likelihood that this fight goes to the cards. So if you're looking for props, you're like, wow, this is written in stone. He's going to knock him out. Maybe he does knock him out, but there is a likelihood that he wins the fight by decision, because Acosta's just moving around, not really letting him get a good look at him, stabbing at his legs, moving laterally, and Pavlovich is landing the more damaging shots, but he's not scoring a ton of points. And he's, maybe he goes to the cards. You're like, Pavlovich won, but both of them really didn't do too much, and it's kind of a lackluster fight. So don't put it past this fight going to the cards. But my official pick will be Pavlovich.
Yeah, that's a great read. That's exactly where I'm at, to be honest, Mike. Yeah, as much as I hate Waldo Cortes-Acosta, we got to be real here, right? And what is the potential path? You kind of laid it out. Pavlovich is a guy who I've picked. You talk about Sterling, right? Pavlovich is a guy, I haven't bet him every time like your Sterling comparison, but he's a guy who I picked right. The only time I might have picked wrong was picking Curtis Blades against him, because I might have still had an inkling of hope back in 2022 or 2023 that Curtis Blades still wrestled, which we know he doesn't really do that much anymore. But I'll tell you what I picked Pavlovich right is literally every other time, and most specifically when I bet, it's been fading him, and I like him actually. It's not that I don't like him, but I faded him. I took over him. Me, I took the vet special, the more proven product at plus money on his debut. And even like against like Alexander Volkov, which was dangerous because Volkov is like, we'll get to Charles Johnson. Volkov was like right up there with Charles Johnson on my, we do not bet Charles Johnson fights. We do not bet Alexander Volkov fights, because I just couldn't, even when I picked him right, I couldn't bet it right to save my life, Mike, right? But I have my theory where former training partners, and heavyweights, everybody expects, heavyweights are going to finish each other, which is why the overs were a gold mine for a lot of us, and the odds makers have caught on, which is why they're heavily juiced now. And the other thing that, I don't know if it's a fallacy or just something that people just continuously overlook, Mike, is when you get two former training partners, look for the overs, man. Look for the overs. When they're two former training partners who like actually are familiar with each other, they didn't just share the room one time or something like the Walker Mingyang Zhang, when they're like familiar training partners, you bet the overs, right? Even if there's bad blood, especially when there's bad blood, right? That was the other angle we've talked about, Mike, right? Bad blood, bet the over. I mean, the Rashad and John Jones, I mean, that was going over all day. Even as dominant as Jones was, and people thought he would be in that fight, it was still going over. They're former training partners, folks. And I was all over Volkov and the over and by decision in that fight. So I do have some confidence picking his fights, and I am picking Pavlovich here, folks. But am I betting him? I don't have any bets on him, and unless I throw something in the round robin, which, by the way, since I'm lowering my units this week, two things are going to happen. Is I'm probably can't, because I'm lowering down to my unit size. It's still going to read the same. It's going to, you will get to it, but I'm lowering basically from, instead of essentially like $100 units is how I would do mine. But basically like $20, but it's going to list as $20. It's not going to list as a whole unit. So I'll stay true to the number. But I say that, folks, is to say that when you lower your prices, things become much less sexy, man. And you're not getting the coverage that I'm usually used to sizing out. And the round robins almost seem pointless when you're playing at that low of a number. So personally, I probably won't play a round robin, but I will still give one out for fun and just for people that are following along and in the comment sections. Thank you guys. Like, comment, please like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell. We appreciate that. And again, in the comments, as well as my Substack, is where you can find my round robins before fight day. Of course, I post them there on the artist formerly known as Twitter at Dan Tom MMA. And I use these, fucking movie and like themed GIF themes that I put way too much time into, especially for my results and the engagement that anything I do yields, it seems. But yeah, that's where you can find those. And so the second thing is to say is that watch this week, whether it be the round robin or the things that I have teensy money on, watch. I'm going to sweep this week and everybody's going to be like, see, Dan, see variant Israel. Things do come around. Not realizing that even if I didn't make shit, and B, even if I did bet my normal and hit fucking perfect in the lottery round robin, I would still be way down. It wouldn't change a lot of things. But neither here nor there, folks. I'll still be giving you guys the round robins, the one things I have been hitting. Anything else to say on this one, Mike, or shall we move on?
Let's go to the next one.
Let's go to the next one. Yeah, I think you like the next one. I like the next one too.
There's a reason you come to the Dogger Pass podcast for your UFC picks, just like there's a reason why Morgan & Morgan is America's largest injury law firm. For over 35 years, Morgan & Morgan has been fighting for the people just like you and I. They have over 100 offices and more than 1,000 lawyers nationwide. When hiring Morgan & Morgan, it's like hiring an army that's got your back. If you're injured by the negligence of another, you deserve to be paid. When you hire the wrong law firm, you might be beat before you start. All law firms are not the same. If you're ever injured, you can check out Morgan & Morgan. Their fee is free unless they win. For more information, go to forthepeople.com/doggerpass or dial #law #529 from your cell phone. That's forthepeople.com/doggerpass or #law #529 from your cell. This is a paid advertisement.
We got Sumudaerji versus Kevin Borjas. Borjas, always a dog and a live dog, underrated one, plus 135. Sumudaerji, even though he's the favorite, you could argue he's been underrated in his own right, though he is coming off a win and sits as the favorite as minus 160. Totals in this 3-round affair, 2.5 rounds, minus 265 for the over, under 2.5 rounds, plus 205. Sumudaerji is a southpaw. Borjas is 0-0 against the UFC level lefties, but his regional loss to a guy named Mendez, I believe, was it Henzo Mendez? Yeah, that guy was a southpaw, and even though it lists as a rear naked choke loss, Henzo Mendez, he was actually getting lit the F up because Borjas, even though he's got really good boxing, underrated boxing, dropped Joshua Van in the first round, right? And kind of shows showed some openings there maybe for a Charles Johnson, who we'll talk about later. Borjas is the real deal. He will fight for your money. He looks like he is, serviceable in the grappling realm as you need to be, but I don't know how offensive he is to take advantage of a guy like Sumudaerji. He's still training down in South American, Peruvian camps. Doesn't look like he's migrated to any Brazilian camps, not to the Mexico PI or any U.S. camps, which have been the kind of three-way trajectory for a lot of the South American fighters in the smaller markets. Not saying they can't succeed without that, just saying what it is. And the reason why I think he got tooled is because if you look in the southpaw sample, even though it's a while ago and he's gotten better since then, his style is his style is very jab dependent. Even though Borjas' best weapons are his right hand, and when he builds on that, his left hook, especially to the liver, when he connects those two, the connecting punch, as Mike well knows, is the jab. You usually got to get your jab established before you start launching those rights and flowing into those lefts, regardless of the head or body. And like many MMA fighters, man, this guy makes the mistake and thinks he's not allowed to jab, man. He thinks he's not allowed to jab, and it disappears. Now, it's been a while. Could we see Borjas all of a sudden have a jab and tax Sumudaerji? Perhaps. But even then, so Sumudaerji is that kind of shout out to my guy Dan Levy, who coined the Chinese Connor nickname. He's got, he's got pull counters and hard kicks as well. A good checking right hook that I actually think is going to be real money. That I thought got Matt Schnell out of there when I bet Sumudaerji there, and that wasn't a painful fight to be wrong on, because it was like a fight of the year, kind of a round of the year type fight that's just so fun to rewatch, right? But he does have that right hook to point that out. So yeah, I actually went with Sumudaerji here because of that. I thought he was very underrated, even in the Charles Johnson loss and this and that, and people were like, we're fading him and this and that. And I think even in the defeats, he looked better because he was actually not just training at Team Alpha Male, but even going down to Texas and training with B Team, like the Craig Jones team and all those guys. And you could actually really tell he was actually making legit improvements. Although I will say with him and all the other Asian fighters from this card, Mike, and those watching, those fighters who do, the Asian fighters you like, who do go to the States and train or whatever, they're not doing that this camp because monetarily it's not really feasible, right? It's not really economical. Like when you're having the show over in Asia in your hometown, you're staying in training camps around those areas. Or if you're traveling to like maybe Kazakhstan or like Thailand, like Zhang Mingyang did for Bang Muay Thai. You're staying in Asia, basically, folks. So I also want to throw that out there. A lot of preamble before I threw it to you, Mike. I just wanted to set the stage properly, my friend. Curious where you ended up on this one.
Yeah, so listen, I was born and raised always to say, and 9 out of 10 times, more, I'd say 9 out of 10, more than not. If you go with the philosophy, always take the boxer over the puncher, you're going to be in good shape from a picking perspective, from a betting perspective. But there are situations where the puncher does win. There are situations where you had Leonard and Duran. Duran's more of a puncher. He was more the boxer. Duran, would beat certain guys who were great boxers. You had Pereira Morales. Morales was more of a boxer. Pereira was more inside, getting damaged. So there are situations, the puncher, the aggressor does win. But more times than not, the boxer does beat the puncher. Sumudaerji in this matchup is the boxer. He's the cleaner striker. He moves nice. He knows his range well. He's much more aesthetically pleasing to watch. Borjas, on the other hand, he's got a very damaging, reckless style to him. And that can be dangerous for a boxer. You know what I mean? If they don't know how to manage it well, if they run out of real estate too soon, if they don't know how to keep their real estate, like boxers can do that. Real boxers can do that. When you're talking about boxers in the UFC, like, oh, Josh Van is a boxer, this one's a boxer. They're not boxers. But real boxers, there's a completely different level between MMA boxing and actual boxing. Boxing is called the sweet science for a reason. These guys will never be able to duplicate boxing. But if you're seasoned enough to learn how to keep the real estate open and to kind of keep the guy at bay, absolutely. But more times than not, in the MMA cage, the puncher does have a better chance than the puncher in boxing because they can clear space more. The boxer doesn't know how to really cut certain angles the right way. So in this fight, the more aesthetically pleasing fighter is Sumudaerji, but I picked Borjas against Rodriguez. There's something about his style that I like. He knows how to clear space. He doesn't just come north and south. He comes in on an angle. He lands big shots. He's got good gas tank. He's got good durability. Something about this fight where I just think that he's going to end up edging the fight. He's going to be the one running downhill more, as Sumudaerji is going to have a little bit of issue trying to keep the real estate. So I'm going to go with the dog here. I think I don't know if I'm going to pull the trigger on it, but I think this stylistic matchup, Borjas is extremely live in this spot. So give me the dog. And I'm not the only one on this show that thinks that Borjas is going to win this fight. Where's the Phantom?
Oh, no, really?
Where's the Phantom?
Okay. Here we go.
Oh, man.
Hey, buddy. Lightweight.
Yes,
Wow.
sir. Yes, sir.
Give us the
I'm going with them.
Give us how you came up with this.
Well, I look at the guy like Kevin Borjas and the way he fights. Like you said, it's tough to pick where he's going to attack from sometimes, and it's kind of unorthodox. And I look at guys when you play sports and they come at you in an unorthodox way in any sport. It could be tricky for someone to pick up how they're going to come at you, which way they're going to attack from, and I think Borjas can use that to his advantage this week and maybe squeak out a win.
We might have to get a third seat with this analysis, huh, DT?
Dude, I think so. I think you guys are in good shape this week. You know why?
Why?
Because I bet Sumudaerji.
Oh, you bet him?
I told myself if I can get close to minus 150, I'd hit it. And I got minus 155, and I'm like, you know what? Let me hit it. I just put 0.3 units. That's it. Again, I'm betting small. And in my defense, the line blew up after that. So, according to these, I'm like sitting here shit on MMA bettors, and I don't do what they do, right? And then, of course, like I said, as soon as I do what they do, easy money under round one, bro. I just eat shit. Well, guess what else I'm doing what they do? CLV, bro. I'm beating the line every week, bro. And apparently, if you do that long term, you win no matter what, Mike. I don't know, but it doesn't feel like that for me, man, because I keep beating these lines and I keep getting beat down. So, with my
I'm
luck,
not one of those guys, dude. I'm not one of those guys. With CLV and I watched film. I make up my own line. If it doesn't compare to my line and there's value there, I take it. This statistics and fucking this and fucking CLVs, get out of here with that. Take that and stick it up your ass. If you're successful with it, God bless you. For me, I watch film. I write. I don't look at lines until I'm done watching film. I watch film. I look at the. I make my own lines up. I think this should be minus 200. If I look and it says like minus 155, I'm like, well, that's value to me. To me, I see value in that. So I'm going to bet. That's the way I play. And I've been successful for decades doing it. So I don't get into this numbers fucking game. I just don't do it.
I hate it. Yeah, I hate the number stuff. I'm with you, man. I do the same. I'm just noticing that I've been much better at beating the market. And again, to my previous point, it don't mean shit because look at my results, right? But yeah, that Rodriguez fight though, if you notice, he knocks down Rodriguez every time when he is orthodox, but when Rodriguez switches to southpaw, the volume just dissipates. And even the commentary is like, Borjas is winning this fight. Why is he just sitting back and wanting to counter now? And of course, the answer was, well, it's because he went southpaw and he lost his jab. So he kind of loses a lot of his offense. And like a lot of in my southpaw reports, you notice a common thread is fighters don't have their jab. And and even if they're not counter fighters, they tend to counter more against a southpaw. Why? Because if you're not a counter fighter, you're probably going to counter more. If you don't believe in your jab, A, you're going to you're missing a major tool, but B, a lot of fighters just feel uncomfortable facing southpaws because you don't see them, right? So if you don't feel comfortable, you're probably not going to walk in, especially if you've been checked with a counter here or there. And now you're like, okay, I'm just going to wait to counter. And your volume drops off a cliff. And if you're just looking at the overall volumes, back to the numbers, bros, that I know me and Mike, we're on the same page on this and don't like. If you go and just look at their average strikes landed per minute on the UFC.com or the stats.com, it's not going to give you any of that context, right? You're going to have to go at least go to the matchup by matchup contexts. And then if you're not knowing what you're looking for, you're not even going to see it. Or if you do see it, you're going to be like the commentators who, as professional as they are, didn't know why Borjas's volume dropped. Now, again, Borjas could come out and win. He probably will because both Mike and Dayton are on him. So I suggest you guys bet him. And should this be a shot bet because we're all invested in some way?
Yeah, you guys owe me a fucking shot this week.
So this is a perfect shot bet then. Yeah. Well, although not really, because if Dayton owes you one, that means you're going down with him in this case since he's on your side. But
yeah, well, you guys owe me one this week. Don't you?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, we do. Fuck. That's right. Yeah, I do owe you a shot.
Well, we'll make it up. Double or nothing here.
Yeah, all right. We'll make it up for sure. My my voice is I might be
Dayton, you don't fucking think I forgot. I hope Dayton doesn't think I forgot back there.
No, I know you didn't forget. I know you didn't forget.
So although Dayton has a chance to win it back.
I will owe you guys regardless, but I might have to be finding an alternative method if my potential, not to be too honest here, folks, but my potential throat cancer returns while you're hearing me talk different. Your old boy spotted another lesion in his throat here. I had my throat resection earlier this year with a cancer scare this Christmas, and it looks like I'll be getting another surgery I can't afford for Christmas at best case scenario, but not trying to worry you guys, but just saying that, if anybody knows about that, like alcohol and acidity is not good for it. So I might have to find alternative methods. I don't know what the rules are about, maybe smoking a J on here or something, but we'll find something to do for you guys. Well, I owe you for sure on that one. But yeah, let's do a shot bet on this fight. Okay, shot bet on this fight. Sumudaerji Borjas, folks. All right, let's push on to the last fight on the main card. Not sure why this one's on the main card, but we've got Taiyilake Nueraji. I can't even pronounce that one, folks. Versus Kiefer Crosbie, was the other SBG Ireland former fighter who is now over at Extreme Couture. Of course, Kiefer Crosbie plus 325. Nueraji minus 450, despite being somewhat of a short notice replacement. Of course, Kiefer Crosbie was initially supposed to face Song Kernan, who is a staple on these cards. But Taiyilake Nueraji is a road to UFC guy. I still don't know the exact stories, and because he won and then was off, and I don't really follow those things too closely. I just go back and watch the tape for them. But yeah, they obviously clearly had tabs on this guy. He is a training partner of someone who also is fighting on this card in Maheshate. And he also trains down there at the Shanghai PI, which has coaches like Dean Amasinger from the UK. They've got coaches from Brazil and the United States down there as well. So maybe they can help him with his wrestling, because this guy actually likes to grapple, even though he's not an A-plus grappler or wrestler, but he's aggressive and serviceable and willing. And he's a switch dancer who can also fight southpaw as well, and has some aggressive dynamic shots on the feet. Still not sure of his ceiling or his defense. And of course, Kiefer Crosbie, very effective pocket boxer. Even though he's a brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, we've seen him fall apart on the ground, some bad looks on the ground. Couple fighters like that on this card that their accolades don't necessarily match what we've seen on paper. However, you got to imagine he's been improving cage wrestling and grappling at a place like Extreme Couture, and is coming in with as good of a game plan as one can be. But he's probably the underdog for a reason in this spot. Mike, what do you got on this fight, man?
Yeah, no, I look at this fight. I'm going to make it really simple. Crosbie is, a fighter that I want to pull the DraftKings up real quick. So 90. First of all, I want to get off this. There's a couple fights in here I want to bring to your attention that I just don't trust. Like this $9,300 price tag on a debuting fighter, a guy coming in. I don't trust it, all that much. But the reason why I could see it being priced this way, the reason why the line is the way it is, this is when you got to kind of assemble in your mind what's going on here. Like, why is everybody trusting this kid so much? It's more an indictment on Crosbie. This guy will fold. This guy will crumble. We've seen it happen 2 times already. And if the pressure's put on him, that's when this guy folds. And this kid puts a lot of pressure on. He's got good hands. He has no desire to grapple. He's not going to sit there and jump into your guard if he knocks you down. He's going to stand over you, and he's going to go and throw punches. And those are the type of fighters that make Crosbie fold. So I do agree with the line, maybe not so much. I didn't have it lined. Like when I watched the film, I had him lined pretty high. Didn't have it lined where it is. But I understand why it is where it is. I understand why it's climbing. I also do understand that people do want to take a couple shots on Crosbie. I just don't think that this guy's cut from this cloth. I think this kid is going to find a way at a certain point in time, lose him in translation, and probably run through him late in maybe second or third round. So justifiable for me, but definitely not going to the window with it.
Yeah, there's no way you can bet this fight, man, as far as the chalk goes. This is tough. I might lean toward Kiefer Crosbie for the shit of it. And
I don't blame. I don't hate it.
And that's the extent of the pick, folks, is the fact that I need dogs. But even at these prices and the air quote value you could argue is on Kiefer Crosbie, even if you don't like him, I'm still not going to play it. I'm still not suggesting anybody run out and play it. I will say though, I'll probably pick, even if I didn't pick him, I'd probably pick him in Tout Master. Shout out to our Tout Master players who watch the show. This is like a Tout Master pick all day. And I will say that the round robin, not a lot's looking sexy, because again, even someone like me who likes to go prop hunting and getting specific and cute, like you said at the top of the show, Mike, I completely agree. This is not really the card to be deeply invested in. So honestly, for a round robin at prices that you're getting on some of these dogs, at least half my round robin's probably going to be money line slots where I just throw money line. Like I threw Tim Elliott last week in one of the round robins I didn't hit. I had Tim Elliott, of course. Again, that was the one dog. I picked 4 dogs and only 1 hit. I played 3 dogs, and of course, the one I didn't play was the one that hit, and that was Tim Elliott last week. So unfortunate, but hopefully the analysis led you guys correctly, because Mike gave the actual correct pick that I should have listened to, which was the points handicap play. Sorry to
Yeah, we actually gave that out on the show, guys. We actually gave that out on the show. So if you guys were listening, you got that on the show. We said plus 3.5 Elliott, even though he won the fight, it was still plus money. It was plus 120. And we all agreed. Nixit gave thumbs up. DT gave thumbs up. So you actually had a free bet on the show that if you took advantage of it, you took advantage. If you didn't,
big plus money on the card right there, man.
Yeah,
absolutely. All right, let's move down to the next fight. Let's move down to the next fight on that. I'll take Crosbie for the show just for the shits of it.
Okay.
Let's go to the next fight, prelim fight. But this will be action packed. We got speaking of Maheshate, Maheshate versus Gage Young. Sorry, song stuck in my head now. Gage Young minus 130, Maheshate plus 110. I believe this opened at pick'em odds. No, Gage Young did open at minus 125. So yeah, it's staying roughly right around the same. This one's tricky. So Gage Young is one of my prospects to watch from previous years. Laura Sankel told me about him back in 2023. So in my January 2024 article, Gage Young made that. And he's kind of thrown in there like Austin Bashi, wrestle boxer kind of archetype, can do, do some different things on the feet as well. But yeah, it's hard. These guys are still kind of growing. They're still developing. They're still raw when they're coming out of that contender series. And that's kind of the thing to remember, which is hard to remember when slowly but surely our whole roster has been kind of filtrated out with low rent fighters from the contender series. It's hard to decipher which are the good ones, which are the not good ones, right? Like which are the fraudulent Russians, which we'll get to later, and which are the non-fraudulent ones, right? It's kind of like that deal right there. But Gage Young, a lot of people, including Laura Sanko and myself, even after watching his regional tape, were high on him, and he could win this fight. But Maheshate, man, say what you will about him, he is very dangerous, and he does the damage. He may make poor IQ decisions, and I know people are really holding the Nicholas Mota loss against him, even though I've been a Mota truther, and he's been making me a ton of money. Even when he lost, again, it didn't look crazy. Might have looked crazy taking the Maldons or the Nicholas Motas pre-flop, even though they lost. Didn't look even when they lose. Don't look crazy. Or sometimes they win, like the Tim Elliott's or the Andre Feelys of the world. But yeah, man, Maheshate, I don't blame anybody for thinking that he's a live dog. But even though they're both playable prices, there's not enough meat on the bone to get me on the dog side here. As I'm going to be siding with Gage Young, but it's not a bullish one. I mean, this is not a fight I'm looking to get action on. Where did you set on this one, Mike?
Yeah, I'm right with you. I'm on the other side. There's no rhyme or reason why. It's not like a really valid reason. I'm just looking at it as I see these guys so tightly matched. It's almost like pick a straw. You know what I mean? Flip a coin and pick a side, and I'll agree with it. You could talk me off the ledge either way, but I'm just looking at, Maheshate does have a better level of opposition. He has been here a little bit longer. It's just, for me, it's like you said, I think a lot of people are discounting how dangerous he could be if he was a little bit smarter in there. So it's plus he's the dog. So it's like all those little nuances that, plus it's, over on that side of the pond, those little nuances, those little fine hairs slightly draw me over that way. So just for picking reasons, I ain't going near the window. I don't have like anything invested in this fight, but give me the dog. I'll take a more experienced dog on the spot.
Yeah, I mean, I even feel like totals are trap spots in these kind of fights, man. Let's just see where this Gage Young kid's at, and at this point in his career, see where Maheshate's at, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on to the next fight. We've got Loney Kavanagh, as I like to say, Loner Kavanagh, and Energy Charles Johnson. Of course, Loner Kavanagh minus 200. Charles Energy Johnson, come back on him plus 170. Totals for this, they're stacking the castle walls, folks. They know how it goes. It's going to be over 2.5, minus 355 with the under 2.5 plus 280. Now, when they overcorrect on these women's or men's flyweight fights, the unders actually can start to get tempting at this point, but not for me, not for this fight. Again, I don't bet Energy fights, and this is a fight that I wouldn't want to bet anyways, because he is absolutely a live dog, and I do not disagree or hate anybody taking a stab on him, though I would say not too big of a stab because it is Charles Johnson at the end of the day. And Charles Johnson's a good fighter and stuff, and he's actually made it a point to be much nicer to the Kai Asekuras of the world, which I appreciate after his it's a statement he made there when he first came in the league. So I got love for Charles Johnson. Don't get me wrong. I'm not holding any bias against him. But the reason why I'm saying no bet list is not just because of my history, because, well, Dan, in that case, you can't hit shit, Dan. Everybody should be on your no bet list. Fair point. But not the point that I'm trying to make. The point that I make when I say no bet list for Charles Johnson is that he is a very inconsistent fighter. And I feel like even his biggest fans can admit that much. So now some of it has just been bad luck because he's won fights that he probably shouldn't have, or arguably shouldn't have, and he's lost fights that he arguably should have won. So there's also that dynamic in there too, which again, you can't hold against the fighter. That's more just the juju of the MMA world and the MMA judges in tow, right? So again, I don't blame anybody for taking the shot, but his inconsistencies are what worry me. And even though Loner Kavanagh, by the way, we got an Irish Chinese loner. I mean, is this Dan Tom or what? I mean, minus the good luck, success, athleticism. Maybe we don't compare me to Loner Kavanagh, but I'm just saying, appreciate a Irish Chinese loner there, a fellow one. Jesus, Dan, wow. But even though he's newer, Mike, and he is poised and he will get that record blemished, don't get me wrong, he hasn't exactly had an easy road. It's not like Charles Johnson is, as much as it's a step up, it's not like it's a giant step up, because he's been facing some decent competition, and especially in hindsight, seeing how the Jose Ochoas, even in defeats, have looked of the world. So I've liked what I've seen from Lonnie Kavanagh. I'm gonna pick him by decision here officially, but again, man, I'm not betting this fight, man, and I don't blame anybody for taking the dog. Where did you end up, Mike?
Well, I actually thought you were going the other way.
Oh, no.
I did. I said this is a fight I think DT is going to go the other way. And here's my philosophy on this. Every card there's usually a darling, right? There's usually last week Chase Hooper was the darling. Doesn't have to be a dog, but there's always like a darling on the card. Chase Hooper was the darling. This week Charles Johnson is the darling underdog. Everybody is picking Charles Johnson. Everybody's picking Charles Johnson. And I think it's not because they think Charles Johnson's so good. I think it's more because they're not sold on Kavanagh. And for me, I think people are reading him very wrong. I think this kid's very real. I've watched a lot of his tape. I've watched a lot of his fights. I get it. You could say Charles Johnson's his best step up in competition, whatever you want to say, but it's not his fault who they put in front of him. He fights who they put in front of him. And not only has he looked good, but the things that he does, the way he traps, the way he creates angles, the way he lets his hands go, when he lets his hands go, his distance management, everything is very, very like high level for where he's at in his career. And it's only going to get better. So this is a kid. I'm not sitting here saying he's going to be the next Dustin Poirier or the next like big thing or anything like that. But what I am saying is this kid is very real, and this kid's here to stay. This kid's not going anywhere anytime soon. I could say the same thing with guys like Josh Van. Like, he's on that caliber of watching. Right. He's very, very good, this kid. And for as good as Charles Johnson spots has had, he's okay. Like, I don't consider Charles Johnson like a great fighter. I think he's a good fighter. I think he deserves to be in the UFC. I think he's had some good wins, but he's also had some really boneheaded losses as well. He does some boneheaded things in there. And I haven't seen Kavanagh do many boneheaded things for his age. He knows how to apply the pressure, when to apply the pressure. Like, I think he's going to be in his face constantly. He's faster. I think he's got slicker hands. I think if he wants to take this fight to the ground and wrestle, he had 4 takedowns in his last fight. He absolutely can. So I find it hard to believe that Charles Johnson's going to beat him in this fight. When I had this fight lined out after I watched it, I had it priced at about minus 155 for Kavanagh. So the line has, is much more confident than I am. But this is a fight where I don't want you guys to if you guys really believe he's going to win, he's live. I'm not saying he's not live, but don't get caught in the consensus trap. There's a lot of providers out there. They're going to make him the darling this week. So don't get caught in that consensus trap. Like, this isn't like a darling dog in my eyes. I think this is a misread by a lot of people and on how good Kavanagh really is. So I'm going Kavanagh.
Yeah, the only thing that I would maybe play is maybe you might see an round robin, and again, I'm not playing it, but I would consider playing this even if I could afford the round robin, as sad and pathetic as that sounds. Is a fight ends by split decision. Again, this is just this is one of those fights where, especially if you are exposed on either side, a split decision will probably, if you are going to get robbed on the Kavanagh side, it's probably going to be by a split decision, right? And if you are going to come up short on the Energy side, it might be by unanimous, especially if like he's as good as me and Mike thinks, right? Kavanagh is, but you do have the hopes of either Charles Johnson doing good enough in a loss, legitimately good enough to earn a split, and or the judges just giving it where it don't belong, like we saw with the Feely versus the Feely fight, which we saw in the Feely fight where it shouldn't even have been a split. But again, we'll take it because we plan for these things, right? Instead of crying about the judges getting it wrong, maybe let's bake it into our lines a little bit. Maybe let's bake it into our handicapping. Maybe. So again, not saying to run out and bet anything, but the split, whether you're playing a round robin or you're exposed on either side, could be a potential bonus and a potential hedge there.
Yep.
All right, moving on to the next fight here on the prelims. Prelims arguably better than the main card in a lot of spots. This is an interesting fight, though. Rongzhu versus Austin Hubbard. Rongzhu getting a lot of love for beating a very hyped, a fighter that was a darling on the hardcore levels in Cody Steele and could have grown into a darling spot if he would have won. But it was Rongzhu, minus 260, plus 210 comeback on Austin Hubbard. Totals for this one, over 2.5 rounds, minus 245. Under 2.5 rounds, plus 195. I actually don't think that. I was surprised that over is not a little higher because you could argue that no matter what side you like, over is the safe play. And even though it's chalky, it's still cheaper than the money line of the favorite here. And I'm not even sure I agree with the favorite. In fact, when I always talk about this, folks, this is another Kiefer Crosbie thing where like, if I do end up with the dog here, it's like, it's because I need dogs, purposes of the show. The dog is live, but I'm also not, the caveat running out to the betting window, nor would I tell you to do that. Not that I really ever do, nor should I with my record, right? But this is a fight where there is the line is definitely not worth the chalk, right? Kind of like the Taiyilake fight, right? Where he was minus 450 or whatever, right? Like, Mike's picking him, and it's not a bad pick. But we both agree that the line's not great, right? And this is another one of those. And I actually like the points handicap here. So this is another classic case where whenever you look to play a points handicap, folks, the first checkbox you always want to check off is durability. Now, does that mean you can only play points handicaps with fighters who have never been finished and look like they have an iron chin? I mean, that would be nice if that were the options, but that's not ever really the options in this game. Anybody can get finished, and you can and you still bet and still cash on points handicaps on fighters who've been finished before. It's all about the context of the matchup as well as the fighter themselves, right? I mean, you really need to go by the no chin, no win. I'm not like Johnny Walker is the last points handicap fighter you would want to bet, for example. I think we'd all agree on that. But Hubbard is a guy who is durable. He wins fights he's not supposed to. He overperforms. He's constantly even though I don't like his style. There's been plenty of fights I could have said both pre and post flop, Mike, that the guy was not given enough credit by the public or the odds makers. That's a fact. Win or lose, he makes closest fights. Fights close. That's a fact. I mean, look at his last two fights, split decisions alone. I'm pretty sure one of those splits, even though I was hard on Alexander Hernandez, saying that Kurt Hulla by unanimous was a lot closer than it was, and that probably even should have been a split. Whereas I can keep that same energy and be like, you know what? I think Alexander Hernandez probably should have won unanimous. From memory serves, I don't even think that should have been a split, right? But to the point I'm making both about the points handicap and both to the point I'm making about the judges' split decisions that I just made a couple minutes ago, folks, the judges will give you those splits anyways, right? You know what I'm saying? They will sometimes, as much as we complain, they will also, if we're being fair, they will also allow you to cover in spots where you shouldn't have covered. So Hubbard is a guy that can and will be around, can make it competitive, and deservedly could even make it competitive. And even if he doesn't, can make it competitive enough to cover the points, to cover a split decision prop, which I also think is could be live here, folks. And I was invited on a show before this show. Very rarely do I do them because it's tough, unless they're like friends of mine in the space. Like I did it for Hey Jive, right? And with the Miles Johns fight, I was like, oh, hey, Miles Johns points handicap plus 100. Maybe I'll look at that after the show, right? And sure enough, what happened after the show, it went from plus 100 to minus 120. And Mike, I don't know if you do this. We've all been guilty of it where we're like, like I don't know what the word, we're not size queens, but like we're price queens. We were like, even though it's only a 20 cents difference and it's really close to even money, minus 120, when you had the plus money, even if it was only plus 100, and then you miss it and it's minus 120, your boner goes down a little bit, right, Mike? Even though it shouldn't, it does. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, of course. It's. I mean, you're going from plus money to minus money, so it's still, to me, it's playable, but it doesn't tickle your dick as much as the plus symbol does.
Absolutely. So, and again, for as crappy as I am, for whatever reason, a bunch of high-level gamblers follow me and are in direct contact with me, and they still do well. Because again, folks, my bets are different than my picks and my analysis, and smart bettors that actually make money know this, and they know how to use analysis in their favor. And that's what I'm here for, folks. I don't advertise it any other way. And I'm not Mr. fucking line mover, but sure enough, I called that line out and it moved, right? Well, I was on Clint's show this week and we had the points handicap for Austin Hubbard at plus 100 again. I said, you're not, I don't even know if I'm picking Hubbard, but I'm like, and it was FOMO. You should never do this, folks. But I'm like, I'm not letting this line get past me again. And I fired on Austin Hubbard's points handicap at plus 100 just for a quarter unit, which is basically just over a unit for how I'm doing things now, if we're doing that math. And sure enough, Mike, when I got off the show, guess what it moved to and where it sits now? Minus 120 again. Minus
there
120.
You go.
The same movement that
yeah,
we
I'm
had
looking
with
at
the
them now.
Johns,
I'm looking
right?
at the lines now.
Yep. So again, would it have moved that way? Probably would have. It probably was just a coincidence that these things happened or whatever. But I was on I might not be popular or great, but I was on people who are popular and do much better than me. Shout out to my guy Hejai, by the way. He's really been killing it. But yeah, like again, I put these plays out there and the lines did move. So minus 120 is still playable. Don't if you like it, don't let yourself get talked off the ledge. If you truly want to play it like I did with the Miles Johns fight. But yeah, I think the Hubbard's point handicap is live here, even if you like the other side. So I'll probably pick Hubbard since I'm playing his points handicap. It's not a confident pick though. Mike, where did you end up on this fight, and what do you think of that play?
Yeah, I like to play. My analysis is going to be kind of quick on this. When I look at Hubbard, the one thing that you nailed to the T was this is a guy who, for as like plotting as he could be, is not super. He finds ways to stay in fights. Like, and that's all you can ask for, just to give yourself a chance. Give me a chance. And that's one thing that he does. He finds ways to stay in the fight, whether he slows the fight down, whether he lulls you into a false sense of security, where he figures out ways to like make you trust him to fight his fight. And that's really all you can ask for. Then it's up to him to get to the finish line. But the problem I see in this fight is I just see the volume differential, the speed differential, the explosion differential. I just think that that's going to give him an ultimate problem. I think once again, he's going to hang in this fight. He's not going to go away quietly to the night, but I just think Rongzhu's volume, his pace, his motor, I think just that's going to supersede Hubbard in this spot. So I'm going to pick him by decision. But I do think, like I said, Hubbard's going to manage ways and manage minutes the best way he can. He's going to be successful in some spots. He's going to be unsuccessful in other spots. Ultimately, I think the judges are going to see for Rongzhu. But like I said, you just can never tell with a Hubbard fight.
Yeah, 100%. I will say, Rongzhu definitely more eye-catching, more volume, more dynamic. All those check boxes, 100%. I'm just wondering if we're overrating the fight with Cody Steele, even though myself and many were high on Cody Steele. That was a really piss poor performance and poor fight IQ performance of like running back over into a straight wall kind of a deal. So not that, again, Rongzhu can't win this fight or doesn't deserve to at least be the favorite. We can argue about how much. I'm not even going to argue that, but I just wonder how much are we really overvaluing here. And I'm definitely, give more respect to the Asian fighters than most, but at the end of the day, the market tends to underperform as, whether we like it or not. All right, let's move on to the next fight.
One last thing.
Yeah, please.
Can you take the lead on this fight coming up first, and then I do seconds? I got to go to the bathroom real quick.
Please go, brother. Please go. Don't worry. And Mike's familiar with these fighters, so he won't be missing much. But of course, we are referring to Michel, my consigliere, Michel Pereira, versus Kyle Daukaus, hashtag Daukaus. Yeah, that's right. But he was going for the presidential election seat in the 80s, and he's back. It's not Michael Dukakis. It's Kyle Daukaus, and he's plus 210 as the underdog. Totals for this fight over 2.5 rounds set at minus 120. The under 2.5 rounds are set at minus 110. Now, Michel Pereira was initially supposed to. The reason why Kyle Daukaus is back in the UFC. He's been campaigning for it, and putting together wins together, so he deserves it in that sense. Good for him. But Michel Pereira was initially supposed to face Marco Tulio, but he was studioed out from the fight, and Dukakis comes in like a tank, man, ready to go. 185. Kyle Daukaus is a guy that he's a southpaw, pressuring southpaw. He's got a pressure striking and grappling game. Not the most athletic or durable guy to enforce it is where he's kind of running into problems, kind of like him and his brother. Chris Daukaus, they both have had similar problems as far as like the super athletic types. And Kyle is more of a guy I like to bet on more in the small cage. Like I remember that I should have cashed on him and would have cashed on him on that Kevin Holland fight. Add to the bad bounces. But folks, this is what I mean by like I had a challenge from like 2021 to even current still going. Feel free to think of any kind of weird fight or weird bad beat and comment it in the comment section, folks. That'd be good. Comment in the comment section, and I'll tell you what side I ended up on, just to show it's like I'm not. Not that I try to play on that, but I'm not sitting here on a soapbox or whatever. Like, just end up on those weird decisions. I was just talking.
Why
about
you didn't pick this fight?
Kyle Daukaus. I did. I was talking about the Kyle Daukaus and Kevin Holland fight. How weird that was. If you remember that outcome. I was on Kyle Daukaus in that fight, and I was gonna cash, even though there was the foul. It's just like, well, you missed the foul in real time, so you can't go back and do makeup calls, right? And you let Holland both get knocked out on his feet, concussed, and then submitted unconscious.
That was a weird fight. That was a really weird fight.
Like Kyle Daukaus cashed the ticket essentially twice to me. It would have been a massive night. And
you see his eyes roll back. You see his eyes roll back in that fight.
That was bad. And if you remember, Big Dan, who I always talk about being influenced, he actually was going to go in and making actually what was the correct call, even though it was incorrect because he missed the foul, but correct due to protocol. And Herb Dean, of course, goes, "Hey Dan." And then you see him go back down the stairs, and Herb Dean puts it in his head to call it a fucking DQ, which is insulting to Holland as well.
It wasn't a DQ, was it? I thought it was
no contest or something. Yeah, no contest. The point is, I don't get to cash my bet.
Right.
Like, you motherfucker. Like, so you essentially let Holland get concussed and submitted for nothing.
Yeah.
Because if you were going to go with that call, you should have saved him the brain trauma and being put out unconscious by a choke in front of a national audience. But okay. It's not about the fighter safety. Again, it's about the commission saving face. Anyways, that's another rant. But I was saying that the Daukaus brothers, they generally run into the same problem, both of them, which is athletes, right? And Kyle Daukaus, I was bringing up that fight. The reason why I liked him in that fight against Holland, because it was a small octagon. And Kyle Daukaus is a pressuring southpaw who likes to grapple. So you want to bet him in the small octagon. But he doesn't necessarily have the durability to hold that game plan, right? So him and his brother struggle against the same people. Now, here's a stat I was saving for you to get back, Mike. He is a southpaw, right? So what's Michel Pereira's southpaw record? Well, it's 3-1. What's that loss? What was a DQ loss to a Joshua Fabia trained Diego Sanchez? Not necessarily a loss, right? And he also iced Andre Petrovsky, who lists himself as a switch stance fighter, but does mainly like to fight from southpaw. And even though that fight was very quick, Petrovsky came out from southpaw and he got iced with a right hand straight down the pike. So what I'm saying is that 3-1 could and should arguably be 5-0 against UFC level lefties. Now, does that guarantee him a win, even as a heavy favorite or a moderate favorite? No, this is MMA. Anything can happen, but that is a stat worth considering. And Michel Pereira, even though he does have a decent jab, he's not a dependent jab fighter. So his style doesn't really change too much. He likes, whether he's going orthodox fighters or southpaws, he likes that power teep down the pike or the right hand down the pike. That's his main shots, right? And like I was saying, I don't talk about being blown away by size that often. I feel like, Mike, you're the same way too. I feel like you have a better than normal gauge on being able to tell how big somebody is, right? Mm-hmm. Just by looking at them, the eye test with all your experience. That being said, there are guys that surprise us, Mike, right? That even surprise us. And Michel Pereira is one of those guys, despite even when he was at welterweight saying, I don't know how he makes welterweight. This guy is a light heavyweight. I said that from day one, and I'm still blown away that the guy is a literal light heavyweight. Now, Sean Strickland or Brad Tavares might not be the biggest middleweights like Brad Tavares, but Brad Tavares is not a small guy. He's a well-built Hawaiian. He is a staple of that division. He is a staple-sized middleweight. He's not huge middleweight, but he is no way near a small middleweight in that spectrum. Michel Pereira made Brad Tavares look like a small middleweight, and they're both preparing for fights. And Michel Pereira's fight is much sooner than Brad's, so he should be trimmed down more. In other words, right at this point of the weight cut, he looked a whole division bigger than Brad Tavares. The guy is freaking massive in there. He's found his right weight class. He's found the right gym. And even though the results didn't go his way, I don't think the results was going to go his way either way in that fight. Again, it's no discredit to him or Dolidze or Extreme Couture. Like, Fluffy Hernandez was a bad stylistic matchup for a lot of fighters, including those fighters. So, yeah, I know I'm being long-winded here just to say pick the obvious favorite, but I got Michel Pereira here, and he is that parlay leg that I was alluding to. You pair him up with Aljamain Sterling. You can still get minus 113. I got minus 106, which is close enough to even money for me. And I put a Scottie Pippen on that. I know that's what I usually reserve for round props, but considering where my unit counts are now, a 0.33U is basically like a 0.175U right now for me. But that's where I ended up, Mike. Well, what do you think about that? What do you think about this fight, bud?
Yeah, you made a lot of really good points, especially with the size of Pereira and stuff like that. But the one thing I do want to point out with him, and this is the problem I have with him. When you have a fighter like him, they're far and few between. When you have a guy that like fights within that kind of athletic, freakish chaos, right? So when he fought, I think it was Tristan Conlon, when he was the biggest favorite on the card, he was doing those backflips and he lost. He ended up losing the fight. He lost that fight. Conlon didn't beat. He lost that fight. Okay. So what do you do now? You go back to the drawing board and you got to say to yourself, well, how do I, as a coach, tame this guy? And what you have to do is you have to give him a controlled chaos. You can't take the chaos all the way out of his game. If you take the chaos all the way out of his game, he's not going to be the same guy. What makes him who he is he's got that chaos within him. He's got that like dynamic way about him. If you take all that away from him, you ruin it. So what do? He's blessed with that. So you have to find an even keel. You have to find a happy medium of control and chaos. And I don't think they found that with him yet. I think they started to find that with him. I do. I think they started to find when he started having great success. He started looking really good. You're like, wow, they look at him. This is a disciplined guy. He still throws some flashy stuff, but they got a leash on him. Then all of a sudden he loses to Hernandez. That's fine. I don't begrudge anybody for that. That's what happens. You either win or you get drowned by him. But the Magomedov fight, he looked terrible. He looked horrible in that fight. He didn't even look like he wanted to fucking be there. And it looked like he was lost within his own technicalities, like almost to the point where they made him too technical. Like they took it all away from him. They said, like, just I want you to go in there. You're going to be technical. You're going to be disciplined. He can't fight like that. And it showed. Like he was too disciplined in there. He didn't even try anything in there. I don't know what the deal was that fight, but he looked terrible. So now I'm saying, now what are they doing now? Where are they in their brains now? Where they say, well, we got to add a little bit in here. He's almost like a recipe. And that's what makes me nervous about this fight, because now you got a guy in Kyle Daukaus who is the better of the Daukaus brothers, in my opinion. Very good grappling. Yeah, his striking is not much to be desired, but he went over. He won a championship in another organization, went 3-0. His striking did get better. He's super, super hungry. And now he's coming up very sure of himself, fighting a guy where they don't even know like how much of sprinkle of chaos, how much sprinkle of they still haven't figured this guy out yet. Like they still haven't found the perfect happy medium for Michel Pereira. So I'm nervous for this fight. I got to be honest with you. I'm going to go with the hungry Daukaus in this fight. I'm going to say that Daukaus gets this done. He's got to weather that first round. He's got to get out of that initial storm. And then I think as this fight grows older, Michel Pereira starts going on his back foot and Daukaus starts getting in on his hips, taking him down and out grappling him. So give me Daukaus for the upset here.
Man, I think you guys should be on Daukaus for the upset. If Mike's on him and I'm on the other side, that's all you guys need to know right there. I do like that Mike brought it. That's one thing I left out. He looked awful in that Abbas Magomedov fight. And it was awful to the point where it was like, maybe this is just me because Abbas is a fade train, so maybe I should have been more affected by that and been scared off if I think Abbas is a fade train. However, I still think Abbas is a fade train because I'm not sold on his His gas tank when he's not controlling the pace, although maybe he's fixed that because, again, a quiet thing here, folks. I don't do much of the tinfoil hat stuff, but we are post-USADA, folks, and there are fighters with just insane shoulder. We're seeing the insane shoulder veins again, back from like the 2012s to 2015 eras, back when they're doing those Brazil cards with the TNT on the mat. That's when everybody came in just looking like their piss would melt titanium, Mike. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But maybe a bus fixed that. But it looked just like an awful performance from Pereira. Now, I want to write it off as just a bad performance, which that doesn't mean he can't have another bad performance. But to your point, how much of it is them, not getting it right? Because I agree.
You're right.
I agree.
You're right.
I agree, though, when you, not just with Pereira, any fighter, you can't take them away to what they're doing. And the reason why I said I'm not sure if Eric Nicksick's going to be coaching 3 fighters, it's because Michel Pereira usually has his own crew in his own corner. Now, it would make sense to utilize a guy like Eric all the way out in China where you're limited with who you can grab out there. And you've got a top-tier guy from your gym. One would think, right? But that's not always the case. Again, you don't see Eric in the corner for every Extreme Couture guy. And he hasn't been, to Mike's point about, maybe they don't have it right. Just he might be in a better place, but that doesn't mean they necessarily have it right? Because again, he might not be under, and then again, not that being under the tutelage of Eric Nicksick's going to save you either, right? We saw that with the Leeds A and Fluffy. I'm not saying that, but as far as these figuring out why it's a bad performance and forecasting on what it could be in the future. And if Mike's right, do we see like we saw with like Cynthia Calvillo, right? It wasn't with Eric, but she came over to Extreme Couture. Not that it's an Extreme Couture thing. We see there's a lot of fighters where they make them capital T technical, so to speak, and they ruin them. Or it's like, why are we making this person an outfighter? Their game is being aggressive and grappling. Why are we having them box on the outside as much as we're improving their boxing? You got to kind of ask yourself these questions. You can kind of kill a fighter, to Mike's point. So if we see that, we shouldn't be surprised. I mean, we shouldn't be surprised if we see it because, I'm on him. That alone, you shouldn't be surprised if you see anything, by the way. I was joking with the, by the way, I let us down too. That was my fault as well, folks, for the DLP parlay. I was in charge of replenishing that leg, and I chose Alibi and walked into that casual trap last week. But again, back to my jinx luck. If you ever hear the commentator say, this guy has never fought this good in his life, wow, I guarantee you can pause, go look at my profile, go look at who I bet. And sure enough, I bet the opposite guy.
Bro, let me tell you something. I'm glad you brought up the commentator. Bro, the commentators have been horrible, dude.
Well, yeah,
the commentating has been
terrible.
Like next, and I'm a big defender of those guys, dude. Like I defend those guys, but bro, I can't even defend how horrible and biased and terribly judged the commentating has been the past couple of events. Like it's really like almost to the point where you're like, what are they watching? They're watching the same thing we're watching. Yeah. It's not like they're sitting in the cage. They have monitors in front of them. They're watching on monitors. They're not watching like this. Right. They're seeing what we see. So it's not like their vantage point. No, like I don't understand some of the calls that they were making, especially on 319. I was like, what are they talking about, dude?
Yeah, it was pretty bad, like on some of them, and especially with the scoring. Now, I will say to round it back to this point, and as well as touch on a previous point before we move on here, is that it's good in the sense that it almost fucks up the public so much that it messes up the balance in our favor. Like, and I tweeted that before the Barbosa and Silva fight, where I was like, "This is the fight where you want to be live betting on," and sure enough, it was, because even though I am absolutely sympathetic for Barbosa bettors in that spot, the fact was, one of the rounds was a lot closer than the commentators realized, and they've totally forgot about that. And that's your live betting opportunities, is when you have a round that's potential. It probably did go the other way. It probably did, but it's not like the commentators are saying. It's not as wide as the line is saying. That's when you fire, folks. And that's why I said at the top of the show, my 2 biggest lessons, because again, we got to learn lessons from our defeats, right? And even the victories, is stick to your reads, which we already went over, and live bets, which I wrote in bold and underlining, because again, the odds makers are making it harder to hit pre-flop, folks. And even when you do hit, you're hitting for a lot less value. And a lot of the value right now is in the live market. And even though the commentary is bad, the one thing I will say, the one good note from it is, to the point about live market betting, it can actually influence the live market. And this is another fight where, with Michel Pereira's gas tank issues to his potential strategy issues that Mike touched on, that if it's not looking like a washout right away, you might want to start firing on Daukaus. So even if you're like, you know what, I agree with Mike and I disagree with Dan, or I don't know if I agree with Mike as far as much I want to pick him. I don't know if I have the balls to play him, but I definitely don't want to be on Dan's side. Then wait and see how it's going live and look at it in that first round.
That's a good idea. Yeah, 100%. Especially if like Daukaus survives round number 1, and at the end of the round he gets a takedown, gets it on his hips, it ends around on top. Then you're like, let's fire away at this. You know what I mean? That's when you start taking a chance. It's the initial dynamo. And you know, like I was saying, it's almost like you ever see the movie Hoosiers?
Yeah, of course. Classic.
You ever see the three pass thing, 3 passes till you shoot the ball?
Yeah.
That reminds me of like Pereira. Like when you're his coach, you got to give him these certain things, like 3 passes before you go nuts. But where do you draw the line? Like where do you say, okay, like here you go, I'm going to let you go this far. Here's your leash. Now go. Now sick him. You know, it's so hard as a coach. I can't even imagine what it's like to kind of not take his freedom away, but having to take some of his freedom away. And that takes a while to pin down, man. It takes a while to pin down. And I just don't think that, I don't think that, and when he's in there, he's got to understand that leash. So it's like, am I being too disciplined? Am I not being disciplined enough? Do I got to sit back on my heels this round? So I don't know. He's a tough riddle to solve from a coaching perspective, also from an opposition perspective. But I think Daukaus is coming in here. It's a multiple fight deal he signed. This isn't a 1-fight deal. Daukaus signed a multiple fight deal here. So the UFC is looking to keep him around. So he's psyched, dude. He's motivated.
And see, the thing is, live betting Daukaus and overs you think would be a sneaky look, but here's the thing is, which is good, which bodes nice for the Daukaus side, but the over 1.5 is set at -185. I know it's a 1.5, so it's more likely to be chalk, but even that high of a chalk for this fight, for a guy whose win conditions are usually under 1.5, right, Mike? But he's the favorite, right? It's
he's
one of those
big
things
dude. Bro, he's a big dude, bro. He's 6'3". You know that, right?
Right, yeah. So it's like, so which, in other words, which line is lying here, right? Like I said before with the Pico fight. And don't get me wrong, like even Eric, to his credit, he actually called the finish. You know, so he called the fight right, but he also told us why perhaps it was over, right? But what did I say? I said, this fight, this seems like the one that should be under. That's what, but yet Pico is the one that's favored to win. Like it didn't
Pico
make
de Gallo, motherfucker.
Yeah, Gallo. But like, so like this is weird, right? The way they have it lined. So yeah, it feels trappy, and I'm on Pereira, folks. So take for that what you will. But yeah, look, I'll be looking to live bet my way out of it if it looks bad. Believe you me. So let's move on to the next fight, shall we? After we made those points there, next fight on the docket after that is Yizha. Of course, I don't know if he's getting inflation from the Jizza and the Rizza, but we've got the Yizha at minus 1,200, and of course Westin Wilson, Stephen Wonderboy's training partner there, plus 700. So both these guys tend to fight from southpaw. I gotta still track down Yizha's record here, folks. It's kind of tricky for these road to UFC guys to see what he lists himself at, but he primarily fights out of southpaws, fights out of a southpaw stance, right? Westin Wilson, he is 0-1 against UFC level lefties. That's a regional loss to Teruto Ishihara, if you guys remember that guy, the Japanese Connor, right? Got hit with one of those left hands. Yizha throws some real power from the left side as well. He can shift stances, and I'm still going through his southpaw record since Westin Wilson is a southpaw. And even though it's going to be 0-0 for the UFC level southpaw record, you know me, even on a non-homo fight official southpaw record report week, still like to get those stats out if I can for you guys. And the Yizha, the only southpaw I could find that he fought was a guy in the road to UFC who he only beat by split decision. And it was because, again, what I talked about with Borjas, where as soon as you go southpaw on him, his jab disappears and his volume kind of disappears. So even though he probably convincingly won the fight against Kiyomi Matsushima on the road to UFC semifinals back in 2022, it was a split because the volume was pretty low in that fight. So then you're incorporating grappling and other aspects of the fight that you probably don't want to do with a guy like Westin Wilson, because he is long and lanky, but he does got some grappling tricks there. That being said, I'm going to be siding with the favorite. Surprise, surprise. Not rushing to bet this fight. Surprise, surprise. Mike, what do you got for this fight?
Yeah, I look at this fight, and I'm going to tell you guys, be very, very careful. That's all I'm going to tell you with this fight. Be very, very careful. From a DraftKings perspective, he's 9,900. That's ridiculous. That's Habib pricing. It's crazy. I will just tell you the reason why I say caution is because Westin, Wilson, obviously we know his style. He's more of a Wonder Boy type style. He trades with Wonder Boy Thompson. He's got that kind of in and out wide stance. And you can fold him. I mean, let's be real here. You can fold him. The problem is you need to have power coming back. This guy's not a powerful striker. He's much more of a grappler. And I would say that, like, even though Wilson is known for his karate style, he's not a horrible grappler. Like, he's not a terrible, terrible grappler. So my issue with this fight is not if Yitzi beats him. My issue is that this fight might go to the cards. Like it's because I don't know. Is he going to knock him out? I don't think he's going to knock him out. Is he going to sub him? Maybe he subs him, but I honestly think that Wilson has got a better chance of defending and lasting on the ground than he does on his feet, even though I think Westin Wilson might have better stand-up than him, on the feet. I just don't see that much of a threat coming back where I'm willing to put that. First of all, I would never bet it, but I'm saying from a DraftKings perspective, $9,900 price tag on a guy that ultimately doesn't have a lot of power, is going to be looking to grapple. And Westin Wilson, for what he is, I mean, you could fold him, but doesn't seem too terrible on the ground. It's like he's at least, serviceable. So I'm picking Yitzi to win the fight. I wouldn't be shocked at all if it ends in the first, second, or third round, but I also wouldn't be shocked if this thing goes deeper than it's supposed to go. So I would be looking at overs in this fight.
Dude, Yizha is like the Yizha is plus 750 to go to win by decision if you think Westin Wilson can survive.
Yeah, I mean, let me see. What is it? Three or decision? Let me check.
I think round two is the hot round. To be honest,
that's the hot round. That's the hot round for sure.
I feel like he's good enough to survive into round two. So you can get tricky with your overs there. Maybe if you do like the over, if it's at a 1.5, you play like fight ends in round two and a round robin or something for like some backup or a potential bonus. And yeah, you could even just sprinkle straight up on the Yizha by decision if you think Wilson can survive there. But
actually, what? Hold on. They don't even have it. Damn it. They'll probably come out with it later. You do decision only.
Oh yeah.
Decision only. Yeah. I got to see what it is though, but you could check that out. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. I don't know. Like I said, I wouldn't be shocked if he finishes him, but I'm just saying, like, you got to have power coming back to knock him out. And he doesn't have a lot of power. He's not really a power puncher.
Yeah, it's going to be more of an accumulation. So that's why I'd say probably more like round two. If he gets the sub, it'll be the hot round for that. But they're going to have that nerfed. So we'll see. Let's go to the next fight. We've got Long Xiao, baby. That was my nickname in high school. Long Xiao versus SuYoung Yu. Long Xiao is plus 110. And then minus 130. The Asian girls used to call me Long Xiao. minus 130. Huge suck. My favorite fighter's huge suck. Sorry. A little Trump there. Over 2.5 rounds, minus 300. Under 2.5 rounds, plus 240. I actually don't blame them for favoring the Korean. He seems to be a little more solid in process. Probably the slightly better athlete if I had to gauge between the two. But Long Xiao is scrappy everywhere, man. He's scrappy everywhere. He's gonna fight everywhere. So this is a really close fight. There's not enough meat on the bone. This is another one where, same with the Maheshate fight, same line spread almost exactly. Similar dynamic where no matter who you like, I don't know if you really should feel too bullish playing either of them, despite it being playable chalk, but because there's not a lot of comeback for the meat on the bone for the underdog. Again, man, talk about low self-confidence, especially on a card like this where I don't know how confident you can be, to Mike's point at the top of the card. But this might be another reluctant dog pick that, again, I am not bullish about. Mike, where are you falling on this one?
Yeah, so do me a favor, Dayton. Pull up that image real quick again.
Oh, no. Okay.
If you have it handy, if you have it.
Which image are you talking?
The image that you just put up of this fight, if you can, for a second, please.
Yeah.
Yeah, of you and long and fucking date and what's it called? And DT. I have to, dude. I gotta see this image again.
Brownie's getting excited for Long Xiao over
Bro,
here.
look how fucking stoned you looks.
He does. Holy shit.
I mean, bro, he looks like he smoked a fucking joint the size of a meatball fucking sandwich, dude.
Korean tiger.
Yo, Dude, there's no way that this dude wasn't high as a fucking kite when they took this picture.
So like in the, I didn't realize that like there's
Never
some
seen
like kind
anything
of
like it, dude. I want to be where he is.
so in the Korean culture, they'll like acknowledge weed and stuff on some of the arts. Like the you'll see like a tiger smoking weed is like an old like Korean art thing, and the tiger looks like super high.
Yeah.
That's how Yusung. He looks like the high tiger from those art from his Korean cultural arts there.
I gotta pick him just on that predication alone. So
Yeah.
I actually I actually am picking him. I am picking him in this spot just for the mere fact that I think the line is right. I think it's right where it should be. When you have a guy who in Long who's more of a striker, you nailed it perfectly with his style. Like he's kind of good everywhere. He's got a good get-up game. He can be taken down, but he will get up. He's got good striking. Like he's tough. He's scrappy. He's a scrappy fighter. Best way to really describe him. But at the end of the day, when you're looking at someone like you who knows what he's good at, and he knows like his grappling is going to be his bread and butter, his takedowns, getting in on his hips, continuously like spam as much as he can to try to get that control time, win minutes. What do you really want to lean? Do you want to lean again with the guy running downhill, or do you want to lean with the guy who has better hands, but he's going to have to worry, like, is this guy going to take me down? Which takes away your offense because you're defending the second level. So I think you're not wrong any which way you pick here, but I think the line is right, and I'm going to go with you to win a decision.
Yeah, I don't disagree that you is the favorite. I think he should be the favorite, even though it's slight. I'm just gonna go with. I need some dogs here, so I'm gonna go with my namesake Long Xiao there for the old hog analysis.
Xiao.
Yeah, that's what the ladies call him. All right, let's go to the next fight. On that note, we got Diyar Nurgozhay. Heavens to Nurgozhay. A little old Hanna-Barbera reference for old people like me and Mike. He's taking Uran Satybaldiev. Suck on my chocolate salty balls for a less younger audience, although that's still a 30-year-old reference at this point. But yeah, salty balls minus 150. Heavens to Nurgozhay.
Look at this picture.
Plus
Look at this picture. Look at this
125,
picture.
yeah.
Dyer looks like he's got high blood pressure, and fucking Uran looks like he's constipated on the fucking shitter right now. Look at his face.
Holy shit, that is some constipation look done to him. Yeah. I mean, better than coming from the Stone Age, I guess, like his boy Oral by there. Minus 115 across the boards for the over 2.5, under 2.5, minus 115. They don't know where this one's going, man, and I don't blame them. However, if I were to pick a total, I would pick the under, and if I were to pick a side, I would pick Satybaldiev. I was at his LFA fight prior to his short notice fight against Martin Butte. God, we got Michael Bisping on the call again. Speaking of, I love Michael Bisping, but he was probably one of the worst, commentators for the Nurgozhay fight because he kind of did a little bit of the gawking. Like John Gooden pointed out Nurgozhay's tick and moved on like a professional, as you should. You acknowledge it and you just move on, right? And then Bisping was like, "Oh, really, huh? Yeah, okay, I guess." Like, just anybody who's had to fucking deal with that shit growing up, it's annoying. And before people get on my social justice woke rant, it's no different than what Mike was, using his knowledge, actual facts that were backed by facts and experience, to tell you about, human physiology as far as how it relates to knockouts in our sport. And since everybody, Mike, is so weirdly obsessed, like we're in a sport where like, everybody has ticks, man, of some sort. Like, not even our sport. Let's go back to boxing. Names like Mike Tyson biting the glove. We've got guys in this sport, mixed martial arts, where you can get kicked and stuff in the head. We've got guys that are big names like Darren Till to Dustin fucking Poirier, pound for pound greats, who put their hands all the way down to their shorts to pull them up regularly in fights, Mike. Yet everybody is focused on some low-level light heavyweight who's probably fraudulent. No offense, Nurgozhay. Who decides to do this, to literally move his hand, his guard hand, a couple inches across his face, almost like a misdone parry with the similar repercussions, right? It's the same repercussions of this move. We're only talking about a couple inches, which I know most of our audience should be familiar with. I'm just kidding. Yeah, Dan, way to make the audience hate you more. But I'm just saying, it's so funny that we're so focused on this. Is it just me, man? Is it the fact that am I being sensitive because I do have Tourette's syndrome and understand that it's not the same as ticking disorders and understand intricacies to both, and I understand that not everybody does, and I can't expect that. But at the same time, it feels silly on a base level, right? Like just a fucking non-bias, common sense level that I broke it down. Did that make sense? And am I off base here, Mike?
Yeah, I don't think. Listen, we all have. Everybody has a. I used to have a tick when I fought. Like, you know what I mean. The way I box, I still do. When I box, I have a certain thing that I do. That it's just. I don't even know where I picked it up from. I got to be honest with you. It was like never taught to me. It was just something that I tend to do with one of my hands when I'm boxing, and I noticed it in like film. I'm like, wow, why do I do that? You know what I mean? And I noticed it just happens all the time, and it becomes a comfort zone for you. It's almost like Darryl Strawberry when he was up and he used to fucking sway the back, sway. Everybody has something, but I don't listen. I don't look at these fucking guys that deeply. I don't think they're that good. I don't think they're going to be here for a long time. I think, I mean, they're one step below a heavyweight with a flip a coin fight to me. This fight,
it is.
I'm going Satybaldiev, but I can care less about this fight. If this fight was canceled tomorrow, I wouldn't care.
Same here. The only thing I'm worried about now, because I've made this stand, now people have to like make this like proclamation, like, oh, Dan's saying, guys, the twitching doesn't matter, that nobody can time it, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying it's not as big of a deal as you guys make it out to be. And if I'm the guy that doesn't say it, why am I the only guy that tweets out the actual evidence of like the literal one time it happened in a fight, which was Robert Whittaker versus Darren Till. Darren Till reaches down for his shorts. Whittaker blasts him. That didn't even decide the fight. We don't even know if Whittaker was planning to do that or if he was just happened to be throwing a 1-2. Like, these things don't decide fights. You can listen to all these high-level analysts. Like, leave me a mic off it. Go listen to a bunch of high-level analysts. Like, how many times do ticks come up? Not often. And if they do, it's probably because they're saying some ignorant bullshit too. And I just hate it whenever guys like Diyar or like, what was that other guy, Damir Uzmagulov, you remember him? He had like a blinking twitch. Like, that guy became like he touched like the top 10 rankings. Like, I didn't agree with some of his wins, but he got like to the top 10. Like, he didn't lose because of his blinking twitch. You know what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't because of that. And people that are just so obsessed with that are labeling it as Tourette's. Like, Tourette's aren't ticks. And by the way, if they do have Tourette's, they probably actually have better reactions than most people, as there are studies of like reaction times and stuff and this and that. Something that I can attest to as a non-athletic guy who's dedicated his life to combat. One of the good things that is still in contact, even when I was sparring with pros in my late 30s and when I was in camp for a fight last time was in 2022, not that long ago, Mike, going with championship level amateurs or lower level pros who were literally trying to take my head off and knock me out. And I'm still able to slip and come back with punches on the feet. I'm still able to go feet on the hips. And when they're swinging fucking hard to go ground and pound, I watch things go by me. It was a strength in mind in sport karate. I could do the one-handed fucking Neo Matrix and fight people one-sided bladed and not like, and I suck. I will be harder than myself than anybody, but it's actually a weird thing that actually there's studies that support it. So if people that want to get deep into the weeds with that for whatever reason and focus on that, like, the facts are against you, but whatever, keep focusing on fucking ticks. And what's going to worry me, Mike, is now this guy's going to get knocked out. And if it's on like either side of his head, it's going to see Dan, see, you're wrong. Hey, Tourette's guy, fuck you. And that's going to be my whole life just for speaking up on this thing. For a guy that I'm not even picking here and I think's fraudulent, by the way. I think Nurgozhay sucks and I'm picking Satybaldiev. So yeah, there we go.
All right.
Sorry, I know.
I like it.
Look like a crazy asshole here. Sorry, Mike. But
no,
I
like it.
here. Let's recap here. I just have to get my rant off my chest, which I know people are going to react much more less favorably to your rant too, because even though I'm the one that's triggered, people that don't even have experience with this shit will fucking get hounded in my comments because they're actually the triggered ones. But hey, let's fucking go. Recapping the picks and plays. We are both on Johnny Walker over, or we were both, yeah, right now. We were both picking Mingyang Zhang officially over Johnny Walker, even, you know, though there's some trappy feels in my opinion. We're both taking Aljamain Sterling over Ortega. We're both picking Pavlovich over Cortes-Acosta, even though that fight could be tricky. Like, I wouldn't even hate Cortes-Acosta by decision, or fight goes to decision on the plus monies there, you know, if you were looking for that. Man, we're on opposite sides. We got the shot bet, Dayton's dog of the week, and a straight play for me on the other side. I'm on Sumudaerji with the straight play. We've got Dayton's dog of the week, Kevin Borjas, backed up by Mike, who is also officially picking Borjas. So keep an eye for that fight, folks. Taiyilake Nueraji, we're both no, Mike's taking him. He's the deserved favorite. And even though he will probably win, I'm going to take a flyer on Kiefer Crosbie here. So I got Kiefer Crosbie on that one. We're opposite on this one too, but we're not bullish either way. I'm on Gage Young as a slight favorite. Mike's on Maheshate as a slight dog. We are both on Loney Kavanagh over the consensus live dog of the market, seems like, with Charles Johnson, but we're on the Kavanagh side. Some split decisions could be live there. Rongzhu, Mike's on Rongzhu. I'm officially taking Hubbard and on that points handicap, and we both didn't disagree with the points handicap for whatever it's worth. We'll see if Hubbard can cover that win or lose. I'm on Michel Pereira. He's part of my parlay with Sterling. Mike's actually taking Kyle Daukaus, and overs and stuff. Yeah, Daukaus. He's back, baby. Daukaus back from the 80s. He's here. We got the Yizha. We're both picking the Yizha over Westin Wilson, but we hate those lines. And again, overs and decisions could be sneaky live for some big plus money to be contrarian. I'm taking Long Xiao, and Mike is taking you. You know me, I can't trust the Korean chalk, even though you is the deserved favorite in a close fight that could also be deservedly close. And we're both taking salty balls over Nurgozhay. Nurgozhay. I parlayed Sterling and Pereira minus 106. If you guys want to fade that, if you want to fade me, I got Sue minus 155 at 0.30 units, so 0.3. And then Hubbard points handicap, 3.5 points plus 100. Got it when it was still plus money. We'll see if that matters not, because it still has to cash, and I only have a quarter unit on it, 0.25. That's all I got. I'll see what I have for round robins. I'll probably have stupid money lines in there, like maybe Kiefer Crosbie, or something like that, and have some other things in there, maybe some overs and decisions in the Yizha, Westin Wilson. Who knows? We'll see where I go. Of course, I'm going to put that in the comment section where you can comment. Even if it's a shit on me, I fully deserve it this week. I won't even fight you on it. Just get it right and go easy on the people with tics. I guess we don't treat them the same as people in wheelchairs, but not that we should. I'm just saying, people are very insensitive about that shit. So God forbid, just try to stick up for the little guys here. But Mike, what do you got? Please end us on a positive note. What you got, where they can find you, because you, sir, have been red freaking hot. You, sir, is who they should be following.
You can go to the madlabmma.com. That's where you can find all my analysis. We got all the breakdowns. We got audio breakdowns. We have the Fight Brain, which is a technology of historical data that we utilize. So I go against the Fight Brain every week. We have all our blueprints over there. We got our DFS over there, which we're killing. And then we have football launching. And we're not like some of these other providers where we're going to charge you an extra $100 for the betting guide or another this for football. It's one price. You're a member. You're a part of our family. You get football for free. We got 5 content providers for football. I would put my content providers against a lot of the guys in the industry. Just because people have big names, don't make them big players. These guys I've had with me for a long time. Very, very sharp, doing all their homework. So we're going to have a sick NFL year this year as well. So Saturday and Sundays, this is where we really have fun. We have fights on Saturdays, boxing and MMA, and then we got football on Sunday. So it's a one-stop shop. You guys can also follow me at Twitter at Madlab MMA. And that's it. For the people that tune into the show, I really, really appreciate you guys. And for the people that you hate on, you can go fuck yourself. That's it.
Well said. Well said. Thank you, Dayton. Thank you, Jared, Pat, everybody behind the scenes. Again, comment at Dan Tom MMA on all socials. My free Substack if you want to see, get the fades in. And man, good luck on your picks and plays regardless. And always protect your neck.
Oh.